My name is Brooke, and this is the story of the moment I understood that some people don't want you healthy. They want you available. They want you obedient. They want you to stay small enough to control and grateful enough to keep apologizing for having needs. I didn't learn that lesson in a fight. I learned it in a waiting room, staring at a clipboard, reading the words patient responsibility like they were a punishment. I had spent years being the daughter who didn't ask for much. The daughter who handled it. The daughter who could be counted on to show up, smile, and absorb the chaos like it was normal. My mom, Carla, loved telling people how close we were. She'd say things like, "Brooke and I are best friends," while casually borrowing money she never repaid. She'd say, "My daughter is my rock," while leaning on me so hard I couldn't breathe. When my health started going downhill, I didn't even tell her at first. Not because I didn't trust her. Because I didn't want the sigh. The lecture. The way she made every problem about her stress. It began as a dull ache that wouldn't leave. Then pain that made me stop mid-sentence. Then mornings where I sat on the edge of my bed and had to convince my body to cooperate. I went to appointments alone. I drove myself. I learned the language of insurance and co-pays and referrals. I pretended it was fine because pretending was a habit. Eventually, the doctor looked at my chart and said gently, "We should schedule surgery." The word surgery didn't scare me as much as the next question. "Do you have support?" I hesitated. I thought about calling Mom. I pictured her face. The way she'd widen her eyes, then immediately start listing her own problems. The way she'd turn my pain into an inconvenience she deserved sympathy for. Till I tried. I called her that evening and kept my voice light. "Hey, Mom. So, I might need surgery." There was a pause, then a sharp inhale. "Surgery," she repeated like I'd accused her of something. "Is it serious?" "It's not life or death," I said. "But I've been in pain for months. The doctor thinks this will fix it." Another pause. Then the question I should have expected. "How much is it going to cost?" Not "Are you okay?" Not "Do you need me?" Just cost. "About $5,000, I said, swallowing. "With insurance, that's my part." Mom clicked her tongue. "Brooke, you know I don't have that kind of money." "I'm not asking you to pay," I said quickly. "I'm just telling you. I might need help after. Like rides. Meals. Just someone." She sighed like I was exhausting her. "I'll see what I can do," she said. "But you know your brother has been going through a lot." "Course he has. My brother, Jason, was the family's permanent emergency. The golden child with the endless crises. My mom could move mountains for him. For me, she offered "We'll see." I hung up and told myself not to be bitter. That night I sat with my laptop and did the math. $5,000. I had some savings. Not much. But enough if I cut everything. No eating out. No new clothes. No weekend trips. And no little comforts that made life feel human. I told myself it would be worth it. Health is worth it. Freedom from pain is worth it. I scheduled the surgery. I didn't ask Mom again. I just quietly started paying deposits and filling forms and pretending it didn't hurt that I was doing all of this alone. Closer it got, the more Mom became distant. She stopped asking how my appointments went. If I mentioned pain, she changed the subject. If I sounded tired, she said, "You're young, you'll bounce back." Then 1 week before surgery, she called me in a rush. "Brooke," she said, breathless. "Jason needs help with his car payment." I blinked. "Mom, I'm about to have surgery." "I know," she said quickly. "But this is urgent. He'll lose his car. He needs it for work." I stared at the wall. My chest tightened. "How much?" I asked, already hating myself. "Just $600, she said, relief in her voice like she'd won. $600. A small chunk of my $5,000. A small piece of my body's chance at relief. Pictured the surgical bill. The pain. The recovery. Then I pictured Mom's disappointment if I said no. My finger hovered over my banking app. And for the first time, I didn't send it. I can't, I said quietly. Silence. Then her voice turned sharp. What do you mean you can't? I mean I can't, I repeated. I'm paying for my surgery. I need every dollar. She scoffed like I'd said something immoral. Wow, she said. So you're going to let your brother suffer because you're, what, too focused on yourself? Too focused on myself. As if trying to be healthy was selfish. That night I cried in my kitchen, not from fear of surgery, but from the realization that my family didn't see my pain as real until it affected them. And even then, they didn't want to help. They wanted to take. The next day, Mom texted like nothing happened. Let me know the surgery time. Not an apology. Not a check-in. Just logistics, like she was managing a schedule she didn't plan to show up for. I sent the date. I didn't send a paragraph. I was learning that explanations are oxygen to people who manipulate. They breathe in your words and exhale guilt. The day before surgery, I packed a small bag. Loose clothes. Chargers. A book I wouldn't read. I cleaned my apartment because I wanted to come home to something that felt calm. I meal prepped soups even though my stomach was tight with nerves. I sat on the floor folding towels and realized how quiet my life had become. Quiet can be peaceful. Quiet can also be lonely. Mom called that night. Are you nervous? She asked, and for a second I felt warmth. Maybe she was trying. A little, I admitted. Then she added, I might not be able to come. Jason has something going on. The warmth evaporated. Mom, I said steady. I need someone to drive me home. Can't you take an Uber? She asked casual. I stared at the wall again. They won't release you to an Uber, I said. They need someone. She sighed. Brooke, you're making this harder than it needs to be. Making it harder. Like I had chosen surgery for entertainment. Like my body had chosen pain to inconvenience her. I'll figure it out, I said quietly. Do whatever you want, she snapped, then hung up. Called my friend Tessa. She didn't hesitate. I'll be there, she said. Tell me where and when. I sat with my phone in my hand and felt a sting behind my eyes. That simple sentence. I'll be there. No guilt. No negotiation. No complaint. Just support. On surgery day, Tessa drove me, sat with me, held my bag, and made jokes to keep me calm. In the waiting room, I kept checking my phone even though I knew Mom wasn't coming. Strange how hope lingers like a reflex. The nurse called my name. I signed forms. I handed over my card for the $5,000. Payment terminal beeped, and it felt like a door closing. I did this. Alone. When I woke up, my throat was dry and my body felt heavy like I was underwater. The nurse spoke softly. Tessa's face came into view, smiling. Hey, she whispered. You did it. I wanted to cry, but not from pain. From relief. From being seen. Recovery was messy. Not dramatic. Just uncomfortable. Slow. I shuffled around my apartment. I slept in weird bursts. I took my medication and stared at the ceiling and tried to convince myself that healing was happening even when I couldn't feel it. Mom didn't call to ask how I was. She texted once. How's it going? I replied, sore. Resting. She didn't answer. 2 days later, she posted on Facebook. I didn't see it right away. I was curled on my couch, half asleep, when my cousin Lily messaged me. Brooke, are you okay? What is this? She sent a screenshot. There was my mom, smiling in a selfie like she was about to share a recipe. Caption in big emotional letters. It's heartbreaking when your own child abandons you when you need them. I did everything for my daughter. Now I'm alone. My blood went cold. Abandons you. When you need them. Everything for my daughter. I stared at the words until they blurred. I was the one who had surgery. I was the one who paid $5,000. I was the one lying on a couch, barely able to stand. And she was telling the world she was the victim. I felt something in me snap. Not anger like fire. Anger like ice. Clean. Sharp. I called her. She didn't answer. I called again. Voicemail. I left one message and my voice was calm. Mom, take the post down. It's a lie. She called back within minutes, voice trembling with outrage. How dare you, she hissed. People are praying for me. People are praying for me. That's what she cared about. The attention. The sympathy. Comments. The warm little flood of validation that came from turning her own daughter into a villain. You said I abandoned you, I replied. I had surgery. Where were you? Don't start, she snapped. You're always so dramatic. I'm under stress. Stress. The magic word that turned her cruelty into an excuse. Delete it, I said again. Or I'll correct it. There was a pause. Then she laughed low. Correct it, she repeated. Brooke, no one's going to believe you over your own mother. And that's when I realized the post wasn't a mistake. It was a threat. The next morning I woke to pain and notifications. Dozens. My mom's friends. My relatives. People I barely knew. My phone buzzed like it hated me. Some messages were, "Are you okay?" Most were not. How could you treat your mother like that? She raised you. You only get one mom. Stop being selfish. Selfish. That word again. Followed me like a shadow. I sat up slowly, wincing, and felt rage rise in my chest. Not because strangers judged me. 'Cause my mother had handed them the script. She had set the stage and painted me as the villain, and they were clapping on cue. I didn't respond to everyone. I didn't have energy for a debate. But I did screenshot everything. Post. Comments. The messages. 'Cause once you see how someone uses narrative as a weapon, you start collecting receipts like armor. I called my mom again, calmer than I felt. Take it down, I said. You're hurting me, she scoffed. Oh, now you're hurt, she said. What about me? I'm the one alone. You're not alone, I replied. You have your friends. You have Jason. You chose not to come. Her voice sharpened. I didn't choose anything, she snapped. You think the world revolves around your little surgery. Little surgery. My stomach flipped. It was $5,000, I said, voice steady. It was months of pain. It was my health. And, she said flat, you're fine now. Stop making everything about you. That sentence told me everything. I could bleed in front of her, and she would still ask what I was doing for her. I hung up. My hands were shaking. Tessa came over later with groceries and checked my bandages like she'd been doing it her whole life. I showed her the post. She stared at the screen, jaw tight. This is insane, she said. She's farming sympathy. Farming. That word landed. That's what it was. She planted a lie and harvested attention. What are you going to do? Tessa asked. I stared at my phone, then at my apartment. I thought about the years of me defending my mom to myself. She means well. She's stressed. She had a hard life. All those excuses suddenly felt pathetic. I said quietly, I'm going to tell the truth. Not in a rant. Not in a screaming match. In the same currency my mom used. Public narrative. The next day, I wrote a short post on my own page. I didn't name call. I didn't insult. I just stated facts. I had surgery. I paid $5,000 out of pocket. I arranged my own ride and recovery support. I'm not abandoning anyone. I'm focusing on healing. I posted it and turned off comments. I didn't want a war. I wanted a record. Then I sent the screenshot to my mom and wrote one line. "This is the last time I'll correct your lies." She called immediately. "You humiliated me," she screamed. I held the phone away from my ear. "You humiliated yourself," I replied. "You lied." "I did not lie," she snapped. "I shared my feelings." Feelings. The new loophole. Lie, then call it feelings. "Your feelings don't get to rewrite my reality," I said. Her breathing was heavy. "You're so ungrateful," she hissed. "After everything I sacrificed." Sacrificed. Another word she loved. Made her sound holy. I took a slow breath. "Mom," I said, "if you truly sacrificed, you wouldn't be punishing me for being sick." Silence. Then she changed tactics, voice dropping into a sad whisper. "I just need help," she said. "I'm overwhelmed. If you loved me, you'd come over." There it was. The trap. Get me alone. Get me in her space. Make me apologize. Make me pay. "No," I said calmly. "I'm recovering." "You're choosing yourself over me," she spat, the whisper gone. "Yes," I replied. For once. That single word detonated her. "Fine," she snapped. "Then don't expect me to be there when you need me." I almost laughed. She hadn't been there when I needed her. That threat was empty. Till it hurt. Not because I believed she'd change. Because it confirmed she never planned to. After the call, I sat in my quiet apartment and felt the grief wash over me. Grief is strange. It's not always for what you lost. Sometimes it's for what you never had. I didn't just have surgery. I was also amputating an illusion. The illusion that my mother loved me the way a mother should. And healing from that was harder than any incision. Part 4 of 8. A few days later, my Aunt Renee called. I braced myself, expecting another lecture. Instead, she sounded hesitant. "Brooke," she said. "Are you okay?" I swallowed. "I'm healing," I said. "Why?" She paused. "Your mom has been crying to everyone," she said. "She says you've turned cold." Turned cold. The family's favorite accusation when you stop being warm enough to burn. "I had surgery," I replied calm. "I needed support." She didn't come. Then she told the internet I abandoned her. Renee sighed. "I saw your post," she admitted. "I believe you." That was the first crack in my mom's narrative. I felt my throat tighten. "Thank you," I whispered. Renee continued, "But you know your mom. She needs attention. Needs attention. Like a medical condition. Like a permanent excuse. She needs accountability," I said quietly. Renee went silent. Then she said, "I can't say you're wrong." After we hung up, I felt a small shift. The world didn't collapse because I told the truth. That was new. I started to realize how much power my mom had over me came from my fear of being judged. The moment I stopped fearing it, she lost leverage. Recovery continued. I took slow walks. I drank water. I watched mindless shows. I did my exercises. My body hurt, but it was a productive hurt. Healing pain, not endless pain. And in that physical healing, something emotional started healing too. Because I wasn't spending energy managing my mom's moods. My phone stayed quiet. I blocked a few relatives who sent nasty messages. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I just protected my space like it was sacred. Then I got an email from the hospital billing department confirming payment. Balance $0. I stared at it, feeling a surge of pride. I paid $5,000. Alone. And I was still here. Still standing. That pride used to scare me because pride meant independence, and independence threatened my mother's control. But now it felt like oxygen. Mom didn't like oxygen. She liked suffocation. She liked dependency. She liked being needed. A week later, I saw Jason's Instagram story. He was at a bar with friends, laughing, flashing a new watch. Not expensive looking, but new. The caption said something like, "Good vibes only." I stared at it and felt disgust coil in my stomach. Good vibes. While Mom posted about abandonment. While I was recovering alone. The hypocrisy was so loud it was almost impressive. I didn't message him. I didn't need to. His behavior was its own confession. Then Mom tried a new move. She sent me a photo. Not of herself. Of her empty living room. Caption. "So quiet without you." It was meant to make me feel guilty. To pull me back. I stared at it, then typed a reply and deleted it. Typed again, deleted again. Finally I sent one line. "I'm recovering. Please respect that." She replied instantly. "I would if you respected me." All caps. Rage disguised as pain. I set my phone down. I didn't respond. That silence was a boundary. It was also a test. Would I cave? Would I fill the quiet with apology? I didn't. The next day, she posted again. Another vague quote about daughters and betrayal. More comments. More hearts. I didn't look. That was another boundary. I stopped feeding myself poison just because it had my mother's name on it. Tessa came by and said something I'll never forget. "Your mom doesn't miss you," she said gently. "She misses the version of you that fixes things." I felt tears rise, hot and sudden. Not because Tessa was cruel. 'Cause she was right. My mom didn't want a daughter. She wanted a tool. A witness who never testified. A nurse who never got sick. A wallet with feelings she could shame. That realization didn't make me hate her. It made me see her clearly. And clarity is dangerous to people who live on manipulation. 2 weeks later, I was finally strong enough to drive again. I went to the grocery store alone. I stood in the aisle choosing soup and felt strangely proud, like I was learning to live again without asking permission. Then I heard a voice behind me. "There she is." I turned. Mom. She was standing there like she'd planned it, like the store was her stage. Her eyes were glossy. Her expression practiced. She didn't walk up to hug me. She walked up to judge. "Feeling better?" she asked, voice sweet. I nodded. "Yes." Her smile tightened. "Must be nice," she said. And I understood instantly. She couldn't stand my healing because it meant she couldn't use my sickness to pull me back. So she needed a new story. And she was about to write it right there between canned soup and cereal. Mom leaned closer like we were sharing a secret. "I've been worried sick," she whispered, loud enough for nearby shoppers to hear. Worried sick. She loved performing concern in public, where it couldn't be challenged without making me look cruel. I kept my voice calm. "If you were worried, you could have called," I said. She blinked, then laughed softly. "I did," she said. "You ignored me." "You posted that I abandoned you," I replied. "That's not concern." Her smile cracked. "Brooke," she said, switching to the tone she used when I was a child and she wanted obedience. I was hurt. I was expressing myself. I nodded once. "And I was recovering from surgery," I said. "Alone." The word alone hung between us. Mom's eyes flashed. "You always exaggerate," she hissed. "You had your little friend." Little friend. She meant Tessa. Person who actually showed up. Tessa drove me because you refused, I said. That's a fact. Mom's face tightened. I didn't refuse, she snapped. I had things. I have stress. I have responsibilities. I didn't argue the details. I didn't need to. You still posted a lie, I said. Mom's gaze darted around, checking who might be listening. Then she leaned in and lowered her voice. Take your post down, she whispered. You made me look bad. Look bad. Not be wrong. Not hurt you. Just look bad. I felt something settle in my chest. Calm I didn't have before surgery. No, I said. Mom's eyes widened, offended. Excuse me. No, I repeated. I won't take down the truth to protect your image. She inhaled sharply. Then she reached for a tactic she loved, guilt. After everything I've done, she said, voice trembling. I carried you. I raised you. I sacrificed. I watched her face and felt sadness, not guilt. Because she wasn't talking to me. She was talking to the audience in her head. Mom, I said quietly, I paid $5,000 for surgery. I needed my mother. You made it about you. Her expression hardened. You're so ungrateful, she spat. You've changed. Yes, I said. I'm healthier. That line hit her like a slap. Her mouth opened, then she laughed, bitter. Fine, she said, voice sharp. If you want to play the victim, go ahead. But don't come crying to me when you need something. She turned to leave, then paused, like she remembered the real purpose of the ambush. By the way, she added casually, Jason's struggling. He could really use help. There it was. The money angle, sliding in under the drama like a knife. I stared at her. No, I said. Mom's face tightened. Of course, she muttered. Now you only care about yourself. She walked away, shoulders stiff, like she wanted me to chase her. I didn't. I finished buying my soup and drove home with my hands steady on the wheel. At home, I sat at my table and thought about the timeline of my life. Every time I was weak, my mom demanded more. Every time I was strong, she punished me. That's not love. That's control. That evening, my cousin Lily called. I saw your mom's post, she said quietly. I'm sorry. I thanked her. Then she said something that made my stomach drop. She's telling people you made up the surgery to get attention. I went still. Made it up. As if scars were imaginary. As if $5,000 was a fantasy. My mom wasn't just rewriting the story. She was trying to erase my reality completely. That's what narcissistic people do when you stop feeding them. They don't just get angry. They attack your credibility. 'Cause if they can make you look crazy, they can keep being cruel without consequences. I took a breath and opened my email. I pulled up the hospital documents, the discharge papers, the billing confirmation. I didn't want to live like this, collecting proof. But I understood now. This wasn't about convincing strangers. It was about protecting myself from a narrative that could spread into my job, my relationships, my future. I made a folder. I named it Medical. Then I made another folder. I named it Receipts. Because if my mom wanted to play public victim, I would stay private and prepared. That night I slept better than I expected. Not because I was comfortable. 'Cause I had stopped trying to be understood by someone committed to misunderstanding me. A few days later, Mom sent me a message that looked innocent on the surface. Can we talk like adults? I stared at it for a long time. Talk like adults. From the woman who posted about abandonment for likes. I didn't respond immediately. I asked myself a simple question. What would a healthy conversation look like? It would start with an apology. It would include accountability. It would respect my recovery. Mom's message offered none of that. It offered a reset, a wipe of the slate, kind of reset that only benefits the person who caused the damage. Till I agreed to meet in a public place. A small cafe. Not her house. Not mine. Neutral ground. When I arrived, Mom was already seated, arms crossed, expression tight. She didn't stand to hug me. She didn't ask how I felt. She opened with accusation. "So," she said, "are you done punishing me?" I felt my chest tighten, then loosen. "I'm not punishing you," I replied calmly. "I'm recovering and I'm not accepting lies." Mom rolled her eyes. "Oh my God, Brooke," she snapped. "It was one post. People post things when they're hurt. You wrote that I abandoned you," I said. "That's not hurt. That's a smear." Mom's mouth tightened. "You're so dramatic," she muttered. Then she leaned forward and lowered her voice. "Take it down," she said. "I'm embarrassed." "No," I said. Same calm. Same line. Mom's eyes flashed. "Why are you doing this?" She hissed. "Why do you want everyone to hate me?" I stared at her. "I don't want anyone to hate you," I said. "I want you to stop lying." She scoffed. "You think you're perfect?" She snapped. "You think you're better than me because you have a job and a little apartment?" My job. My apartment. The same thing she used to brag about when she wanted people to think she raised a successful daughter. Now she used them as proof I was arrogant. That's what happens when you stop serving someone. Your strengths become their accusations. I kept my voice even. "Mom, I needed you. You didn't come. That hurt. Then you turned it into a story where you're the victim. That hurt more." Mom's face softened for half a second. For a moment I thought I'd reached her. Then she said, "I had to protect myself." Protect herself. From what? From being held accountable? She continued, "People judge mothers harshly. I needed them to understand how hard this is for me." I blinked. "My surgery was hard for me," I said. "It was my body." Mom shook her head like I was missing the point. "You don't get it," she said. "Everything you do affects me." There it was. Core belief. I wasn't a person. I was an extension. A storyline. A supporting character in her drama. "I get it," I said quietly. "I just won't live like that anymore." Mom's jaw clenched. "So what?" she snapped. "You're cutting me off?" "I'm setting boundaries," I replied. "No money requests. No public posts about me. No guilt trips." Mom laughed sharp. "Boundaries," she repeated, mocking. "You sound brainwashed." I sipped my water and felt calm. "If boundaries feel like brainwashing to you," I said, "that means you were used to me having none." Mom stared at me, stunned. Then she leaned back and crossed her arms tighter. "Fine," she said coldly. "If you want to be that way, then don't expect me to care when you're old." I nodded once. "Okay," I said. That simple acceptance made her flinch. She expected me to beg, to panic, to apologize. But I didn't. I paid for my coffee and stood to leave. Mom's eyes widened. "You're just walking away?" she demanded. I looked at her. "Yes," I said, "because this isn't a conversation. It's a negotiation for control." I walked out and felt my heart pounding, not from fear but from adrenaline. I sat in my car and let my hands rest on the steering wheel until they stopped shaking. Then I whispered something to myself that felt new. I chose me. And the world didn't collapse. No lightning. No punishment. Just quiet. That quiet was my reward. 'Cause when you stop feeding a narcissist, they don't die. They just get louder. And I was ready for that. I had receipts. I had support. I had a spine, and I had a scar that proved my pain was real, whether my mother respected it or not. Mom got louder, just like I expected. The next week she posted again, but this time she was careful. No direct accusations. Just a photo of her looking sad with a caption like, "Some daughters forget the love that built them." Comments flooded in. "Stay strong, mama. Kids these days. You deserve better." I didn't respond. I didn't lurk. I protected my peace. But the fallout still reached me. A distant relative messaged, "You should apologize." I blocked them. Another said, "Your mom is heartbroken." I replied once, "My surgery recovery mattered too," then I stopped. There's a moment when you realize explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you is just a slower form of self-harm. My health improved every week. I could walk farther. I could sleep without waking from pain. My body began to feel like mine again. And as my body healed, my mind did something even more surprising. It got quiet. Constant buzzing guilt wasn't as loud. It was still there, but weaker. Like a bad radio station losing signal. Then Jason called. I almost didn't pick up. Curiosity won. "Hey," he said, too casual. "Mom says you're being weird." I closed my eyes. "What do you want, Jason?" He sighed. "Look, Mom's stressed. People are talking. You need to just fix it." Fix it. That was always my job. "I'm not fixing Mom's lies," I said. "She can take her post down." He laughed like I was naive. "She's not going to," he said. "So just be the bigger person." Bigger person. Translation, be the smaller target. "No," I replied. He went quiet, then his tone sharpened. "You think you're special because you had surgery?" He snapped. "Everyone has problems." I felt something cold in my chest. "I paid $5,000, I said. "I recovered alone." And Mom turned it into a story where she's the victim. Jason scoffed. "You're fine now," he muttered. "Stop dragging it." Fine now. Like pain ends the moment you stop complaining. "Jason," I said calmly, "you're calling because Mom sent you." He didn't deny it. "You've always been dramatic," he said instead. I almost smiled. 'Cause that insult used to hook me. Now it just exposed him. "Okay," I said. "If you want support, Mom, you're welcome to." "I'm done." "So you're cutting us off," he snapped. "I'm protecting myself," I replied. "Big difference." I ended the call. My hands were steady. That was new. I told Tessa about it later. She shook her head. "They're panicking," she said. "Because you're not bending." Panicking. Yes, 'cause their system depended on my flexibility. When I stopped being flexible, the whole structure shook. A few weeks later, my Aunt Renee invited me to a small family gathering. She said Grandma wanted to see me. I went for Grandma. I walked in and kept my shoulders relaxed. Mom was there. Jason too. Mom looked at me like she was watching a stranger. Jason avoided eye contact. During dinner, Mom tried to reclaim the narrative in front of everyone. "Brooke has been distant," she said with a sad smile. "I just hope she remembers she has family." I set my fork down. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't insult. I just said I had surgery. I paid $5,000 alone. Mom posted that I abandoned her. That's why I'm distant. Silence dropped over the table. Mom's smile froze. Renee cleared her throat. Grandma looked at my mom, then at me, and said quietly, "That's not abandonment. That's recovery." Recovery. The word felt like a door opening. Mom's face flushed. She started to speak, then stopped because arguing with Grandma would make her look bad. She cared about looking bad more than being wrong. Through dinner, Grandma pulled me aside and squeezed my hand. "I'm proud of you," she whispered. I felt tears sting. That sentence was medicine. 'Cause I had been treated like the villain for protecting myself. Grandma's pride didn't erase the pain, but it validated the truth. On the drive home, I realized something. My mother's post didn't just accuse me of abandonment. It was a warning to anyone who might support me. It was her way of controlling the room before I entered it. She wanted to isolate me with shame. And it almost worked. But she underestimated something. People are not blind forever. Lies work best when everyone is afraid to speak. The moment the truth is said calmly, it starts spreading. Not because you screamed it. 'Cause it finally has air. Months passed. My body healed fully. Pain that once shaped my days became a memory. My scar faded from angry red to a soft line that I sometimes traced with my fingertip when I needed reminding. Not of the surgery. Of what it taught me. That my health matters even if my mother doesn't approve. That my needs are not a betrayal. That love without care is just control in a nicer outfit. Mom never apologized. She never took the post down. She just stopped mentioning it once it stopped working. That's how she operated. If a story didn't get her the reaction she wanted, she dropped it and moved to a new one. She invited me to brunch one day like nothing happened. "Let's start fresh," she texted. Start fresh. No accountability. No repair. Just reset. I stared at the message and felt calm. Not rage. Not panic. Calm. I replied with one line. "I'm open to a relationship that includes honesty and respect. Otherwise, distance is healthier for me." She didn't answer for a while. Then she sent, "So you're choosing yourself." I typed back, "Yes." That was it. 2 letters that used to feel like a crime. Now they felt like freedom. I ran into Mom again later in public. She smiled like she was fine. Like she hadn't tried to destroy my reputation while I was healing. She leaned in and whispered, "People still talk, you know." I met her gaze. "Let them," I said. "My body is healed. My peace is too." She looked annoyed, like she wanted me to be ashamed. Shame was her favorite leash. But shame only works when you agree you did something wrong. And I didn't. That's the part people don't understand about stories like mine. The revenge isn't a dramatic confrontation. It isn't screaming in the street. It's choosing reality over guilt. It's refusing to buy love with your health. It's learning that your mother's feelings are not your job to manage, especially when she uses them as weapons. The most painful part wasn't paying $5,000 alone. It wasn't the recovery. It was seeing how quickly my mom turned my suffering into her spotlight. Seeing how easily she chose likes over truth. How she called me an abandoner while I lay on a couch with stitches and silence. But the most healing part was discovering that I could survive her disappointment. I could survive her smear campaign. I could survive being the villain in a story written by someone who needed a villain to avoid accountability. And I didn't just survive. I got better. Stronger. Clearer. If you're listening and you've ever felt guilty for protecting your health, hear this. Anyone who makes your recovery about their feelings is not safe. Anyone who punishes you for needing care is not loving you. They're controlling you. I didn't abandon my mother. I stopped abandoning myself. And once you do that, the world gets quieter. Not because life becomes perfect. 'Cause you stop letting the wrong people narrate it.